All right, let's dive deep into workflow automation platforms. I'm sure many of you are listening because you're tired of wasting time on repetitive tasks and want to, put things on autopilot. And, well, you've probably realized by now there are tons of options out
Oh
there.
yeah, definitely a lot to sort through. We've got a lot to cover today, comparing some of the most popular platforms like Make, Zapier, N. We've also got Active Pieces, Node-RD, Automatish, Hujin, and even some big names like Apache NiFi and Airflow.
Hmm.
Oh, and we can't forget Windmill.
Wow, that's a pretty comprehensive list. So the plan is to really break down each platform, like what they do well, where they maybe fall short. Just give everyone listening a clear idea of which platform best fits their needs, whether they're just getting started or, they're a seasoned developer looking for something really powerful.
Exactly. We want this deep dive to be useful for everyone, no matter their technical skill level. So let's kick things off by looking at three platforms that a lot of people are probably considering: Make, Zapier, and n8n. What do you say?
Sounds good to me. Let's start there.
Okay, so right off the bat, Make and Zapier have some pretty fundamental differences. Their pricing structures, for instance, work in different ways. Both platforms charge you based on, how much you use their workflows, but Make counts each operation you do in a workflow, while Zapier charges per task that's completed.
Ah, I see. So depending on your workflows, that can make a big difference in cost, especially if you've got complex automations running.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big factor to consider. And then there's the matter of pre-built connectors. These are like those ready-made links that let different apps and services talk to each other. Zapier's got a big lead here with over 6,000 available. Make has over 1,500, and 8 and clocks in around 1,000.
So Zapier definitely has the edge there, at least in terms of sheer numbers. But I guess it's not just about the quantity, right? I mean, how easy is it to connect to something if it's not already in their library?
Good point. Both Make and Zapier let you request custom connections, but n8n actually offers a simpler way to create these connections. They have this thing called an HTTP node, which basically lets you talk directly to any online service, and that makes things a lot easier. And then you've got things like error handling, team collaboration, user management. When you look at all that, Make seems to offer more robust features, especially in their higher tier plans compared to what Zapier gives you at similar price points.
Interesting. So if you're looking for those more advanced features, Make might be a better option, especially for those complex workflows, the ones with tons of steps, conditional logic, and lots of data. Zapier's super user-friendly for getting started in simple automations, but it might not be the best for super intricate stuff.
Right. And then we have n8n, which is, well, it's source available. That's a bit different from open source, but it still gives you a lot of transparency and the ability to self-host. They charge based on how many times your workflows run, which is different from how Make and Zapier do it. If you've got workflows that do a lot in one go, this execution-based pricing could actually be pretty cost-effective.
I can see that. And for anyone who's comfortable with coding or, has developers on their team, N8N seems really appealing. Make and Zapier don't give you a ton of freedom to add your own custom code, but N8N fully supports JavaScript and Python. And get this, if you self-host it, you can even install external packages. That opens up a whole world of possibilities.
It really does. So let's kind of, sum up what we've discussed about these three platforms. We've looked at pricing models, self-hosting, how you create custom connectors, how much coding freedom you have, error handling, collaboration tools, user management, even AI features. And it's clear that these three platforms have their own strengths and weaknesses.
Absolutely. I mean, just the licensing alone is a big difference. Zapier and Make are proprietary platforms, so you can't really see their code. NAN, on the other hand, is source available and gives you the option to self-host it for free.
Yeah, and n8n makes it easier to create those custom connectors with its HTTP node. Zapier usually makes you use their developer platform or webhooks, which are like automated messages between apps. And Make, well, they have those dedicated HTTP modules.
Makes sense. And coding-wise, NAN is the most flexible, letting you use a ton of JavaScript and Python. Make gives you some limited JavaScript options, mainly in their enterprise tier. And Zapier has JavaScript and Python, but with some restrictions.
Right. And for error handling, Make has the most features, Zapier's is more basic, and n8n lets you totally customize how errors are handled. For collaboration, Make again has the strongest features, Zapier's are more limited, especially in their cheaper plans, and n8n has basic collaboration in their paid tiers, but the enterprise plan has more advanced stuff.
Okay, and for user management, it's kind of the same story. Make has advanced features, Zapier's are more restricted, and NN's are basic. Then there's AI. All three have some AI features, but n8n is the only one that supports LangChain, which is this framework for building language model applications. That means you can build some really sophisticated AI-powered automations right within the platform.
Yeah, that's a big differentiator for n8n.
So it seems like for someone just starting out with automation, Zapier's ease of use and all those integrations might be really tempting. But as your needs grow and you need more control and customization, Make, and especially n8n, seem like the better options. Plus, n8n being free to self-host is a huge advantage for folks who are watching their budget and want more control over their data.
Definitely. And n8n's enterprise features really set it apart. You get things like advanced security and audit logs, which are specifically for on-premise deployments. Zapier and Make don't offer that. Plus, that strong support for coding and the integration with LangChain make it a great choice for anyone who wants to build AI-powered products or features right into their workflows.
All right, so we've covered a lot with Make, Zapier, and n8n. Now let's shift gears a bit and explore the world of open source alternatives to Zapier. Open source platforms are attractive for a lot of reasons, right? Lower cost, more customization, better data privacy, and the option to self-host and really control your data.
Yeah, that's a big draw for many. Proprietary platforms are convenient, but they do have limitations when it comes to customization and control. Now let's start with active pieces. It's very beginner-friendly, doesn't require any coding knowledge, and even has a nice auto-retry feature that tries to run failed tasks again. But the trade-off is that it has fewer integrations with other applications and might not be the best for very complex or unique automation scenarios.
Right. Then there's Node-ROD, which really shines in a specific area of automation. It's all about connecting physical devices and Internet of Things, IoT systems. It uses a visual flow editor, which is great for visually mapping out these connections. However, it does require more technical knowledge than some of the other platforms we've talked about. Plus, it doesn't have as many readily available integrations with everyday business applications.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then we've got Automatish, which aims for simplicity for non-technical users. It offers a nice balance of ease of use and advanced features like fancy filters for manipulating data and formatters for restructuring data. And then there's Hugin, which is clearly for developers. It's designed for self-hosting and is great for building custom automated agents that can do all sorts of things.
Okay, so we're starting to see the different flavors of open source automation. Now let's step into the realm of enterprise-grade data management with Apache NiFi. This one's for organizations handling huge amounts of data. It's built for high throughput, meaning it can process a ton of data efficiently. And it also keeps track of data provenance really well, so you have a full history of your data's journey. But the catch is that it's complex to learn and requires a lot of computing power to run effectively. Right. And then we've got Apache Airflow, which is another one geared towards more technical users. It uses Python to define and manage workflows. It's great for scheduling complex data pipelines. Those are automated processes for moving and transforming data. However, setting it up can be pretty complicated, and it's probably better for batch processing rather than real-time data streams. So we're seeing that some of these open source options are definitely more geared towards large organizations and people with more technical skills. Now, what about Windmills?
Oh, Windmill's interesting. It seems like it's for developers who want to quickly build and deploy custom internal tools and automate workflows within their organizations. The cool thing about Windmill is that you can use multiple programming languages in the same workflow, giving you a ton of flexibility. But it does have a smaller ecosystem of pre-built integrations than some of the more established platforms, and there's a bit of a learning curve to master its more advanced features.
Okay, so we've got a good overview of these open source alternatives. It's clear they each have their own niche and cater to different users. Active Pieces for beginners, Node-RED for IoT, Automaticity for ease of use with some advanced features, Hugin and Apache Airflow for developers with specific needs, Apache NiFi for massive data management, and Windmills for building custom internal tools quickly. Now, what about n8n in this context?
Yeah, let's bring n8n back into the conversation. Even though it's technically source available and not fully open source, it still embodies the open source philosophy. You can self-host it and customize it extensively. With that HTTP request node, you can connect to basically any API, and it has a ton of pre-built integrations that are constantly growing. Plus, you can add your own code and use Git for version control, which is great for managing changes over time. However, it can be a bit trickier to learn for some users, and it might need more computer resources for really big, complex workflows.
So n8n kind of bridges the gap between simple and complex. It offers a lot of power and flexibility while still having a visual editor for building workflows. But it might not be the easiest for absolute beginners.
Yeah.
Now, to really get a good grasp of the differences, let's directly compare n8n Zapier, Make, and Node-RED across some key aspects. First up, ease of use.
Right. Ease of use is important. For building and managing workflows, Zapier generally takes the cake, followed by Make, and then n8n. Node-RED usually needs you to be more tech-savvy.
Okay, that makes sense. What about integrations with other apps?
Well, Zapier has the most pre-built integrations by far. Make and n8n are close behind, while Node-RED has fewer integrations for standard business apps, but is great for connecting to APIs.
So it depends on what you need to connect to. Now, how about scalability? How well they handle growing workloads and complexity.
n8n and Node-RED are known for being very scalable. Make is also designed for handling complex scenarios and big data. Zapier can scale, but it can get expensive as you use it more.
And finally, community support and available resources.
Zapier wins here with a huge and active user community and comprehensive support resources. n8n, Make, and Node-RED also have active communities and helpful resources.
So we've got a good picture of the core strengths of these four platforms. Zapier for ease of use and tons of integrations, Make for handling those tricky automation situations, n8n for customization and scalability, especially with self-hosting, and Node-RED for IoT and tech-savvy users. Now, let's shift gears completely and compare n8n to something completely different, an AI-driven approach like AutoGPT.
That's a really interesting comparison. n8n is all about structured workflow automation where you define every step. AutoGPT is more autonomous. You give it a goal, and its AI figures out how to achieve it.
So with n8n, you're using this visual builder to create workflows, and you've got lots of customization options, including adding your own code. You can also choose whether to self-host it or use their cloud service.
AutoGPT, being open source, is all about ease of use with simple prompts. You just tell it what you want in plain English. It can learn and solve complex problems by breaking them down into smaller tasks. But this hands-off approach comes with some limitations.
Yeah, with AutoGPT, you don't have as much control over the specific processes it uses. You just give it a goal, and it does its thing.
Yeah.
There's also some unpredictability because the AI might take different paths each time, and there's the risk of AI hallucination where it might come up with wrong or nonsensical information. So you have to double-check its results.
Right, so let's compare them head to head. n8n uses manually built workflows where you control everything. AutoGPT uses AI-generated processes that you influence through prompts. n8n lets you add advanced scripting and complex logic, while AutoGPT's customization is mainly through refining prompts. n8n is predictable and consistent, while AutoGPT can vary in its outputs and steps. Setting up NA is all about building workflows manually, while AutoGPT just needs a clear goal. So NA is great for repeatable, predictable tasks, while AutoGPT is better for those hands-off situations where adaptability is key.
And their pricing is very different, too. n8n costs are usually tied to your infrastructure if you self-host, or to a subscription if you use their cloud service. AutoGPT, however, charges based on how much you use the large language models it relies on, like those from OpenAI. They usually charge per token, which is basically a unit of text. This can lead to unexpected costs, especially since AutoGPT might create a lot of internal prompts as it works, potentially racking up those charges if you're not careful.
Yeah, that's something to keep in mind. And when it comes to performance and scalability, n8n's performance is pretty predictable and depends on your server resources. You can scale it up by adding more resources. AutoGPT's performance depends on the large language model's speed and limits. Scaling it can get more expensive, especially for complex tasks that need lots of processing.
And for integrations with other services, n8n has a big advantage. It has pre-built integrations for over 300 services, and you can connect to practically any API. AutoGPT relies more on web searches, manually setting up API calls, and using files to exchange data. That can make integrating with other services a bit more complicated.
Right. And for community support and documentation, n8n has a dedicated forum, comprehensive documentation, and support channels for paid users. AutoGPT relies on its open source community on platforms like GitHub, Reddit, and Discord. It's helpful, but not as structured as n8n's support.
So it's clear that n8n and AutoGPT are designed for different purposes. n8n is ideal for those structured business operations, like data processing, IT automation, and streamlining processes. AutoGPT is better for adaptable tasks where each situation is unique, like research, customer support, content creation, and planning. n8n gives you more control and predictability, while AutoGPT is more hands-off but needs more monitoring.
Exactly. Now let's broaden our view a bit and bring in two more AI-focused platforms, Diffy and Coz, and compare them with n8n. As we've seen, n8n is open source and built for general workflow automation. Diffy, on the other hand, focuses on building AI applications, and Coz is all about creating AI-powered chatbots.
All right, so they each have their specialty. Now, let's see how they stack up feature-wise. For general workflow automation, n8n is the clear winner with its wide range of features and integrations. Diffy has limited support for traditional workflows, focusing mainly on those needed for its AI applications. And Coz's automation is mostly about the interactions and logic within its chatbots.
When it comes to AI and large language models, Diffy is the star. It natively supports LLMs, making it perfect for building applications that harness AI's power. Coz is also strong here, specializing in conversational AI for its chatbots. n8n can integrate with AI through APIs, but it's not as deeply integrated as Diffy and Coz.
And how about ease of use?
Diffy and Coz are often described as low-code or even no-code platforms, making them accessible to people without deep coding knowledge. n8n, with its visual workflow builder, is generally user-friendly, especially for those with some technical background. But it might be a steeper learning curve for complete beginners, especially when adding custom code.
So there's a range of options for different skill levels.
Yeah.
Now, how about extensibility and API support?
n8n is the most flexible here. You can create custom nodes and integrate deeply with tons of services. Diffy focuses more on AI integrations, and Coz's API support is mainly for deploying and integrating chatbots.
And deployment options.
n8n gives you the choice of self-hosting or using their cloud service. Diffy and Coz are mainly cloud-based.
And finally, pricing.
n8n has a free open source option and a paid cloud version. Diffy is commercial, and Coz uses a subscription model.
Okay, so we've got a clear picture of their strengths. n8n for developers needing custom workflows, Diffy for building AI applications, and Coz for creating AI chatbots. It all boils down to what you need most.
Exactly. So after exploring all these platforms, let's give our listeners some final recommendations for the top 3, considering their different needs.
All right, so for those who value ease of use and tons of integrations above all else, Zapier still seems like a great choice. It's easy to use, even for beginners, and connects to so many apps.
That's a good pick for simplicity and broad connectivity. Now, for those who need customization, scalability, and the option to self-host, n8n is a fantastic option. It gives you lots of control. You can potentially save money by self-hosting, and it's great for more technical users or those who are really concerned about data privacy.
And for developers who want to quickly build and deploy custom internal tools and are comfortable with multiple programming languages, Windmill is a powerful solution. It takes a code-first approach and makes deployment super efficient.
So there you have it. Zapier for ease of use, n8 for customization and self-hosting, and Windmill for developers building internal tools. These recommendations reflect the diverse needs and priorities in the world of workflow automation.
As we wrap up this deep dive, it's important to remember that the best platform for you depends on your specific needs, your technical skills, your budget, and how complex your automations are.
We encourage everyone listening to explore the platforms that caught their attention based on our discussion. Visit their websites, read their documentation, check out their tutorials, and join their communities. That's the best way to make an informed decision.
And finally, here's a question for everyone to think about. With automation becoming more and more important in our lives, how could using one of these platforms transform your workflows and supercharge your productivity? It's definitely something worth considering.
Absolutely. And if you have any specific platforms or automation topics you'd like us to explore in future deep dives, let us know. We love hearing from our listeners, and your feedback helps us keep things relevant and interesting.
All right, that's all for this deep dive. Until next time.
Happy automating.